friends, today I'm gonna do my January wrap-up. So honestly, January was such a successful first month of the year for me in a lot of regards actually, but I'm talking bookish. And I'm just really excited to talk about everything that I've read. I've had quite the interesting month. I really had a lot of different ratings in there and a lot of different thoughts and feelings and opinions. I also DNF'd 4 books this month for all kinds of different reasons, which I'm not going to talk about them today, but I'm just saying this month was like successful and great, but also it had like everything in there. So first off, this month I listened to the audiobook of This Will Only Hurt a Little by Busy Phillips. I went into this honestly not knowing who Busy Phillips is, and I still don't really know who she is. Like, I know that I've like seen her before, I've definitely seen her face before, but I just want to say that going into this, I did not have any opinion on Busy Phillips or what she did with her life. I picked this up because Victoria Schwab said that this is a really great memoir, and I think it was even one of her favorite reads of the year. And because I really fucking love memoirs, I just thought, you know, recommended by Victoria Schwab, that's perfect. So I listened to the audiobook, and this was genuinely one of the best memoirs I have ever listened to. First of all, I definitely think that even if you read it, it's good because Busy Phillips, she's not scared to go there. Like, she honestly tells it all. She tells all of the dirty truths, and that includes not, you know, she's not like just dragging random Hollywood people into the mud. She's also talking very honestly about herself, and she's not really holding back with things that she's kind of thinking. And I know that's why a lot of people don't really like this. They think like, oh, like she's like unlikable and annoying, and I didn't think that at all actually. I thought she was great. But yeah, it felt very honest and genuine. And then also, I mean, I get why a lot of celebrity memoirs have like no names in them and stuff like that, but I actually really enjoyed reading this memoir and like actually having like celebrity names in there. Now, I don't know any of the background, but it was just really fun to have actual names in there. But what really made this an absolutely incredible read for me is Busy Phillips' narration. She also did not hold back on getting emotional. And it was honestly like the most emotional narration I have ever listened to. It was so good. I love that so much. Like, I was just really, really emotionally impacted by the way she told this story. And that's also, I think, where I could tell that she was very genuine and she was really like trying to tell this story, and it was really important to her because she was also not scared to show these emotions. So I honestly like truly love this memoir and the way it was told. I think there were some really, like, she had a lot of things in there as well. Like, it was definitely a lot like about her life, about her personal life, but also about her career. And then, you know, it was a little bit about like the Me Too movement and all these kinds of things. Like, you know, it just felt very timely as well, just with the things she kind of talked about and the things she opened up about. And I honestly thought it was amazing. Some of the criticism that this book gets is a little bit annoying because people are saying like, I don't care about the struggles of this like, you know, middle-aged white woman who has a lot of money. And I'm like, I mean, let's be real. Why did you pick this book up then? Like, yeah, maybe this is not the story that like needs to be told, although I disagree with that either. I think that this story, with the way she talks about just being a woman in the industry, does have a place as well. But I get that there's other people who need this space and they don't get that space to tell their story. But still, I'm a little bit upset like seeing people say that, when I think that a lot of the things that she says has a lot of value actually. And as I said, I didn't find her unlikable either. I actually thought that she was really fucking great and relatable. So that's that. But maybe that's also because I really went into this like not even knowing her. So I guess a lot of people probably already have like an idea of who she is. And obviously this is like a story that is told from her perspective. So I'm getting what she thinks of herself. I don't know how she might have fucked up in the past. Nothing like that. But I loved it. And I actually gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was that good. Like, honestly, I really loved it. I cried several times because it was just so emotional. Then I read The Wicker King by, I almost said Holly Black. Shit. Then I read The Wicker King by Chram. I read this, well, I read this for the Dragons and Tea book club, I say, even though I was not on track at all. But technically I read this for the Dragons and Tea book club. And I'm gonna leave a link to the Goodreads group down below if you want to join that club and, you know, read some books with cool people every month. This was really one of the most interesting and fascinating novels I have ever read. This is a YA contemporary, and it's about these two guys and their very codependent relationship, and also one of them has hallucinations, and as these get worse, the pages start to get like grayer, and then, you know, so it's just really such an interesting way of storytelling and just so intense. Like, just in general, there's some mixed media in there and everything. It just felt like I was really in this story because of the formatting and everything. Like, it just, I don't know, something about it just got me a little bit more just because of the way it was formatted. That's definitely what made it enjoyable in a way. At the same time, it's definitely about some really real fucking issues. Like, there's tons of trigger warnings. I'm gonna leave them in the description because I wouldn't even be able to name them all, but there's a lot going on, and I think that a lot of it is very well done, and it's just a very interesting way of storytelling. I definitely liked the relationship between the two characters. It is a friendship for the most part, but you can also tell that there's some other feelings involved, and I actually really liked how this relationship was handled as a whole, like, and the way these feelings developed. I think that was actually brilliantly done. I just think that I just had some issues with it, is what I'm saying. I had some issues with it, but it's nothing where I'm like, this is problematic. I just personally had like some things where I was like, ooh, yikes, but nothing bad, and still honestly just such an enjoyable read, such an intense journey, and one I would definitely recommend. If you can like handle the content, then I definitely think that this book is for you, and I gave The Wicker King 4 out of 5 stars. Then I listened to Black Wings Beating by Alex London. This is a YA fantasy, and I honestly, this was just not for me. I didn't really love the audiobook. That was definitely one thing, and I know that definitely impacted what I felt about the story. This is like a story that has to do with like birds and stuff, and the narrators would just do these bird sounds, and it was just really not pleasant. But in general, I didn't really love the narration. I didn't really love either of the narrators. I didn't connect with this novel. The biggest aspect where I'd say I just think that the world building is very much not for me. I just think I'm very much not into this kind of world building. I wasn't really liking the whole bird thing in general, even without the audio. Everything else was just kind of not very engaging for me. Like, the characters, the storyline, it wasn't bad. I just didn't really care, and so yeah, I gave it 2 out of 5 stars, but I know a lot of people really love this. So then I read A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro. This, first of all, I got this gifted by Melanie from L to the NE, but also I read it with her because she's doing this like catch up on classics thing, and they are like reading retellings of some classics as well. So they were reading, I didn't read the classic, I didn't read the Sherlock Holmes book, but I did read the retelling, reimagining, and that is A Study in Charlotte. When Melanie gifted it to me, I was really excited because I had heard a lot of things about it, and like, it just keeps popping up, and I hear good things about it all the damn time. I'm like interested to see what I think about it, like what my opinion about this book is. And then when I actually read it, I loved it. I thought this was so great. This was so entertaining. This was so emotional. Amazing characters, amazing storyline. I really think that the mystery aspect was incredibly well done. I thought that the kind of Holmes and Watson dynamics were incredibly well done. I think it's great that this is also told from Watson's point of view. And I mean, I'm just gonna say it quite honestly, like, the mystery, everything was good. Like, the storyline kept me engaged. I was actually really surprised with kind of how much this story kept you engaged, how much it kept you thinking, and how much it would still at the same time surprise you again and again. I really didn't think that there would be so many like moments that I wouldn't really see coming in here. But my favorite part about this, hands down, is Jamie and Charlotte, the Holmes and Watson characters. They are perfect, and they are my favorite dynamic because Jamie is, and that's the thing, Jamie, for me, Jamie is a soft boy. Even though there's some things going on with him, he has some issues with, like, you know, being aggressive and violent sometimes, but at the core, he's still such a soft boy. And then Charlotte is just like, you know, this typical Holmes character that's like very you know, removed from her emotions, but you can also tell like, oh, maybe she's a little bit like scared to care. So it's just very much like, this is the exact dynamics that I love. Both of these characters are great individually, but I also really, really ship them. Like, I ship them quite a lot. I think that they are wonderful and great, and I love the kind of development. Just this book really got me emotionally, and that's not what I expected from this at all. Like, I expected this to be like entertaining and enjoyable, but emotionally, I didn't think that would happen. But I would literally die for these two characters. There's some trigger warnings in here for drug use and drug addiction, and like rape. A rape has happened in the past, and like sexual assault. So definitely, you know, just know that going into it. Like, it's actually pretty mature. Like, it deals with a lot of shit that maybe you wouldn't really expect from this. But I can only say that if you thought this might be of interest for you, if you also love the soft boy, kind of feisty girl dynamics, this is the book for you. And I cannot wait, because this is a series, and I cannot wait to continue this series. Oh. Gave Study in Charlotte 4 out of 5 stars. Then I listened to the audiobook of The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy by Mackenzie Lee. I was really excited about this. I actually had an arc of this, and it came out in, October or November. I just didn't get to it. I never got to it, and then I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna listen to the audiobook. This was very interesting. First of all, I'm giving this the alternative title, The Lady's Guide to Pride and Prejudice, because that's literally what it is. And I think that just giving this a different title already would have done wonders for this book. I think that what this book really excels at is characters, their relationships, and the developments. There's some really great, strong female friendship in here, and I really loved seeing how the characters grew through this friendship. I really, really love that. Felicity as a character I know is unlikable to many. To me, she is honestly just really realistic and also relatable, and I think it is wonderful to see her grow in this novel. I think that a lot of the thoughts she has in the beginning of this novel, they make sense for the time that she lives in, the place that she's in, and what she wants to achieve with her life. But she learns, and she learns it through her friends, her female friends. And I really, 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 really love that. I think that it was very well done character development, and I love that it was done like through the power of friendship. My issues with this were that this didn't really have a plot. Like, where is the journey that I'm promised with a title that's called something something Piracy? And like, there's a little bit of piracy in there, but I'm like, it wasn't justified to have the word piracy in this title. And in general, it just feels like the journey to like the end goal is very straightforward, but it kind of felt like it was dragged out. And I don't really get it, because if this just had been like a character-driven novel from the beginning, like if it was just kind of clear, this is not like a plot-driven novel, this is a character-driven novel, I think that it would have been written in a little bit of a different way and just would have been like less boring for a lot of parts of it. Like, I didn't really find myself engaged in basically in any of the story. Like, I didn't find the story engaging at all. Like, I found the little bit of adventure that we had very boring, and everything before the adventure very boring. Everything that I liked about this was just the characters, and the characters are what kept me going. So I don't really know. I just think something went wrong with this novel. I almost feel like I could have completely done without the whole journey part. I can just say that I really love the characters, and I think that that aspect was very well done. There is representation in here. One of the side characters is Muslim, wears a hijab, and she's also sapphic, which I'm not sure how much that has been mentioned before. And then Felicity is Aro Ace. I know that a lot of people that identify as Aro Ace are very happy with this representation. Next, I listened to Snow Like Ashes by Sarah Rash. This is a book that I've been wanting to read for forever. This is a book that has been on my TBR for forever, and I was just like, same as with Lady's Guide, I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna listen to the fucking audiobook now, because otherwise this is never gonna happen. And I have to say, I actually thought that for a 2014 YA fantasy, this is holding up incredibly well. And I know that a lot of people have very mixed opinions on this, and I actually was pleasantly surprised by this book. With everything that I've heard, with knowing which year it was published, reading it, I was actually like, this is not too bad. I definitely thought the first half was like much stronger than the second half, and it's sad. I truly enjoyed the first half. Like, solid 4-star read for me. And then it just kind of lost me in the second half. I just realized I was like feeling less and less engaged, and then the ending is definitely something where it kind of ends in a way where you're like, this leaves space for the sequels. Like we know like what's gonna be talked about in the sequels, but at the same time there was not enough that made me want to continue. I truly actually think that this could have been a standalone, and I truly believe that this is a novel that ended up being the victim of its time, where everything had to be a trilogy. I think that if this had been published in a different time, it probably would not have been a trilogy. I don't think that it is justified that this is a trilogy. This totally, like, this story could have been very much done in a standalone, and it would have worked very well. But instead there was like some element left so that we could like drag it out to a trilogy. I don't think that was well done, and I'm not interested in reading the second and third book. I'm just going to pretend that little door that was left open for the sequels, I'm just going to pretend that door closed, and you know, I'm fine. This is standalone, great ending. So yeah, that's definitely my issue. I think it would have done better as a standalone. And also I was really digging the romance in the beginning, and I actually was here for the love triangle. Like, there was a scene in there, I was just like, holy shit, I'm loving the drama, this is great. And then it fell flat, like absolutely fell flat. And then I've read some reviews about the sequels, and Sarah Rash fucked up. She fucked up where she like, I guess I can't say that because I'm gonna go into spoilers. She didn't fuck up in a problematic way. She just fucked up in a way where like, I'm so glad I didn't read the sequels, because I would have been mad about it. I would have been very mad about the way she handled the characters and the way she handled the love triangle. So I'm glad I didn't have to experience that for myself. I really, really, truly enjoyed the first half so much. And then it just fell flat. And usually with fantasies, I'm the other way around, where like the first half, I'm like, oh, all that world building is boring, blah, 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 blah. But then the second half, I'm like, yes, the potential. And this was just the exact opposite. And that was definitely a little bit sad. And especially the romance, the potential of this love triangle. But I still enjoyed it overall, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. My next read, I am not gonna talk about too much. I read King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo, and I was very disappointed. Like, a lot of disappointment is floating around my face still, because, you know, hasn't been that long since I read it. I finished it in 2 days, and that's also why I don't want to talk about it too much, because I know that a lot of people cannot read a book this quick. I know that a lot of people, you know, haven't had access to this book yet, and I feel like I can't really go into details on my thoughts and emotions. I don't want to do like a spoiler part, because there's just not enough people who have read it yet. And so I don't even want to go into too much of my emotions and my reactions, because I know that can definitely ruin the experience for a lot of people too. And especially if it's such an anticipated release. All I can say is that I felt very disappointed. I think that even though this was supposed to be Nikolai's book, and I think a lot of us were also very much excited about Nina, this ended up being Zoya's book. Absolutely, she was my favorite point of view by far. I really loved Zoya's chapters, and I think in general, well, she was the shining star of this novel. Nikolai was okay for me. I didn't like dislike his chapters or anything, but it's just strange when this is like the Nikolai book and Zoya ends up being the star of it. And then Nina's chapters, I thought Nina's storyline was incredibly boring. I get the significance of Nina's POV and Nina's chapters, but at the same time, I don't really think it had to be that much. Like, I said it in my Goodreads review, I'm like, I feel like this could have been less Nina, which I didn't really think that's something I would say, but it's what I felt. I thought that the last third, or last fourth actually rather, was definitely the strongest. A lot of things picked up there, and a lot of things were there that I really liked. A lot of really, really great chapters. But then I also really, really did not like the ending. Like, I really didn't like it at all. I think the ending was bad, like bad, and it left me with this, like, especially because I was like pumped because I was just enjoying this last fourth so much, and then when I finished the book I just kind of wanted to throw my iPad across the room. So that's what I felt. And there was another thing that I was very much disappointed with when it comes to the storyline and the things that happened or didn't happen rather. I was just expecting a little bit more on that, but that's definitely a thing I can't really go into. So yeah, that's actually all my thoughts that I want to mention. This is everything that I feel like I can mention without, you know, going into too much detail. it is what it is. I am still hoping that I will love the sequel more, but this was just honestly a disappointment for me, and I gave it like 3.5 stars, but the more days go by, the more I talk about this with Melanie, who felt similar to me, which is great. I'm just thankful I'm not alone, but the more we kind of talk about it, the more I realize like I'm really angry as well. Like I'm not just disappointed, I'm also angry with a lot of things, and that makes me want to just lower my rating even more. But for now, it's 3.5 stars. Then I read The Body is Not an Apology, The Power of Radical Self-Love by Sonia Renee Taylor. This is a non-fiction book, and I thought it was going to be a memoir, but it's actually kind of a self-help book almost. And even though I think I already know a lot of the things that she talked about, you know, I'm like very much into like intuitive eating, and you know, I listen to a lot of podcasts that talk about similar things. So I think a lot of the things that she was talking about I already knew very well, but I still thought that this was so inspiring, and I want to shove it into all of your hands because I feel like this is an absolute must read for everyone. It is just incredible. I actually loved listening to it and kind of realizing how many of those things that she's other people telling to do to like improve and stuff, that I'm already doing those things. That was really, really cool to read, actually. It also made me realize how many unhealthy thoughts I had before I kind of went into thinking that way. I think that was very interesting. It made me reflect on how much I had actually changed and how much had just changed with the way I see myself and the world. I really loved that. And that's actually another thing that I really loved. I think Sonia Renee Taylor put a lot of focus onto realizing that self-love does not only impact your thoughts about yourself, but it's also gonna impact your thoughts on other people. And I really, really loved that. I really loved how much there was a focus on like how much this is gonna influence just everything. I love this a lot. I mean, I gave it 4 stars, not 5 stars, but I think that's just because I'm like, I didn't like listen to it and I was like, this is so enjoyable, you know? An objective rating for this would absolutely be 5 stars though, because I thought it was great. As far as I could tell, it was very inclusive because it talks about basically everything. It talks about being queer, it talks about being fat, it talks about being trans, it talks about being a person of color, it talks about being disabled. It has so many things in there, and it's not just about like the body as you would think, like the things that you see, but it was also like, don't forget, the brain is a part of your body as well, and you need to take care of that. It was just brilliant. It was brilliant, and really, really, I want everyone to read this. You're gonna think like, why have I lived my life any other way before? Because that's what I thought. This book genuinely kind of blew my mind. As I said, even though I had already ingrained a lot of these things into my brain and my life, I was still like, damn. So The Body's Not an Apology, highly, highly recommended non-fiction novel. Audiobook is great too. I think she does an amazing job at narrating this. I'm not exaggerating. This is a book everyone should read. The world would be such a better place if we could all live by this kind of mantra. Oh. And finally this month I reread The Wicker King by Holly Black. I was kind of like saying to Melanie that I don't know, I guess I was like writing my review or like looking up quotes, and I was like, I wish I could reread this. And she was like, if you wait till January, we could like buddy reread it, which I then kind of forgot about. And then we kind of tried to squeeze it in before King of Scars, and I didn't get to it. So I kind of like buddy read the first half with Melanie, is what you could say. But it was very great to reread it with her. She sees this book in a different way. Like, I very much enjoy it. I think that it's great writing, great world building, amazing characters. But Melanie has this appreciation for Holly Black that just made me see this book in completely different eyes. So I really, really loved that. I really loved hearing her thoughts about it. This reread, I loved it even more than I did the first time. I just think this is an absolutely brilliant book, and I'm mad at myself for not putting it on my top books of last year, because it should have been on there. But you know, sometimes you need a little bit longer to understand how much you love something. You know? I gave it 5 out of 5 stars again, obviously. Anyway, this is everything that I read in January. As I said, a successful month, but also all over the place kind of month. There were a lot of things in there. But yeah, just in general, had a really great reading month. I would love to know your thoughts and opinions if you've also read any of these books, especially obviously The Wicker King and King of Scars. Also, please read The Body Is Not an Apology, because it's so good. And in general, let me know how your first reading month of the year went. And yeah, I make new videos every Wednesday and Sunday with occasional reviews on Friday. So click subscribe to never miss anything and hit the little bell so you get notified as well. And thank you so much for watching. I guess I'll see you soon. Bye!